Let me figure out where to start. I believe race has a lot to do with it. I don't want to overstate my case, but I like to watch history and I like to study history. And I have always said, and I continue to believe, that race is the defining issue in this country. And if you ever want proof of that, read the news. In every situation, particularly in this situation about health care, race is the underlying current. And when people decide that they don't want health care, even though they personally need it, you have to wonder, what is the motivation for not wanting health care for yourself and for your family? And then you hear the comments, the F word, the N word, and I realize, as I've heard Reverend Jesse Jackson say many times, and I've believed a long time, that we've been sold a bill of goods, and the bill of goods says it's more important to be identified by your race than to be identified by your circumstances. And so I ride around in South Carolina and see people in raggedy, broken down trailers with no water, with a big old Confederate flag flying in their front yard, because they would rather identify with being with race pride and being racist than identify with poor people and try to get some help and a decent place to live. And that's what we're seeing in this healthcare situation. People would rather identify with not needing any help and having money and being rich and being white than to identify with needing help from the government, because that is associated in some people's minds with being African American or being Hispanic. And so that bill of goods that we've been sold is something that our president and people who are forward thinking are going to have to combat. We've come a long way, but it saddens me and it makes me shake my head every time I see those souvenirs and things that say dream realized, because we have an African American president. No, he has a very uphill climb. And just because we have an African American president does not mean that race and racism is not the defining issue in this country. He has an uphill climb with that, and everything he tries to push through that will help regular people, that undercurrent of race is going to come through.
As we're talking here, you know, when they were mentioning on the news a little while ago about congresspersons being called the N-word and being spit on, it took me back to the 1960s. I'm a true fighter from way back. I don't believe in letting anybody do anything to me that I don't get them back for. So I just go in that direction. Then I've had a number of people. I had a friend of mine who's asked me several times what's the difference between a primary and a caucus. And I had to tell him he took American civics like I took American civics. Primary is when you actually vote and the people come to vote. And right. The caucus is when they gather in the room and they vote in the room. That's the only difference between the primary and the caucus. But the next thing I want to talk about is this health care issue. You know, the congresspersons were saying they didn't understand it. It was 2,000-something pages. Well, my problem is, don't they get paid to create and read the legislation that they're voting on? So I can't understand how they don't understand it, because if they R-E-A-D, which is the word, is a four-letter word, if they read, they would understand what it's about. Then also they were talking about in this issue of the time frame, well, let's delay it. Why are we delaying it? We're delaying it for what reason? Okay, I can't understand why it's being delayed. Then I heard President Obama say, because I didn't hear the speech last night, but this morning, that this is for the American people. Isn't government supposed to be for the American people? Also, one of the writers in the Harlem Renaissance, I believe it was Conte Cullen, said, when will America become America? Still, for poor people and racial, ethnic folks, America is not America. There are just a couple more points I want to make here. The other point is the congresspersons and senators are talking about blocking legislation at the state level. Is that not what created the Civil War? And I think there's something in the federal law called treasonous acts. And I think that if you don't follow the laws of the government, that's called treason. Then I'd like to suggest. Yeah, but see, but
every state has its own sovereignty rights too, and that's what I was saying about this. I said the issue is going to be: is this considered across state lines, and it's commerce. And because you can make the argument that it's commerce because it is health insurance that's being sold and offered. So if it's across state lines, the state doesn't have sovereignty over it because of the commerce clause, because of the dormant commerce clause, to be more precise. But let's see how they make the argument. But you make a great point with treason. Go ahead.
All right, and then I just wanted to I brought this up several times at ERE here in Cleveland because I've broadcast off that station. We want to be free as African American people. There are three things we can do. You talked about one of them. The first one is selective buying. We only buy with those who support us. Mm-hmm. The second one is selective tax payments. We're the only people that pay the top rate in taxes because we don't get the tax breaks. Okay, and then the third thing is we send our children off to areas to serve in the government, to serve for this government, and they don't even like our kids. Most of our kids have to go into the Deep South. They have no knowledge of what going to the Deep South was about, and then they're put in, it's called, the technical term is military conscription. That's when one serves in the military. And I think that if we did those three things, there would be a lot more respect for us here in America. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, brother, I thank you for your call, man. That's a great call. That's
fixing me. But anyway, good morning, and I want to see Rush Limbaugh and all them sick Republicans get on an airplane and get out of town. They say that healthcare passed, they will leave this country. I want to say bye-bye.
Now, we're going to see, because Rush Limbaugh did say, Johnny, that he was leaving America if this bill was passed. Let's see if he keeps his word.
Bye-bye. Second thing, please. I was just watching the show, Right America, Wrong Time, whatever the thing. Alexander Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, just document behind the scenes during the John McCain and Sarah Palin campaign. It's strictly racism. Have you saw that document? Yeah.
No, but I remember
seeing it. Yeah, it comes on HBO. Just came off. Just went off just a moment ago. Right American Feeling Wrong. That's the name of it. And she done a behind the scenes thing of the campaign with John McCain and Palin. And it's strictly it's just top notch Ku Klux Klans at their worst. If you ever saw it, it'll make you sick to your stomach. But anyway, Rush Limbaugh, rest of you sick Republicans and people who think like that, bye-bye.
373-9766. Now, I'm going to say something that I don't know if too many other black people going to honestly admit. But I'm going to admit it right now. As I watched him sign that legislation, well, it was not sign it, excuse me. As I watched him talk about the passing of the House, of the Senate form of medical reform, I thought two things. I am so lucky and blessed to be alive to see a black president and healthcare legislation happening at the same time in this country. But the other thing that I was thinking was, God, Father, please protect this man. And I'm saying that because it's some crazy people out here. I get craziness, so I know his got to be to the umpteenth. And I was right. I was listening to some of these Republican talk hosts coming in, and basically, I mean, they speaking in code, but they basically calling for something to happen to the president. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this to be mean or evil or anything like that, because we are all God's children. But to the Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity's, Glenn Beck's, Michael Savage's, and everybody else on the right, you better pray that nothing happens to this president. For whatever happens to him will come back to you 100 times fold. Believe me when I tell you that. God does not like ugly. Remember that. You guys are all over there talking this rhetoric. You need to stop all that now.